Warning, the following video is rated M for if you're young, you shouldn't watch this, so viewer discretion is advised. But hey, I won't tell if you won't. So Persona 4 Golden came out in 2012 and everyone was like,
Everyday young life.
The game was critically praised and was the only reason people bothered to buy a PS Vita/PS TV. Oh, you know it's true, guys. Come on, let's be real. But the game was a big success, mainly because Golden is just a zhuzhed up version of the original Persona 4 on the PS2, which was an extremely popular JRPG. And it was so popular, it caused a bunch of spin-off junks like anime series, fighting games, and this, and once again, caused the waifu wars to explode. We lost a lot of good people during the waifu wars. Please let this game die, guys. But the game kept everything people loved about the original Persona 4 and added more content, extra dungeons, and a whole bunch of stuff. Being a game that balanced fun characters, deep combat, and a wacky story, releasing the game again with more stuff is exactly what the fans wanted, and exactly what their wallets didn't. But anyway, if you're new to this game, here are a few basic tips, tricks, and heads up for people who don't know about this game. So you play as the protagonist, aka you! A handsome, beefy little transfer student, because of course he is, who moves to a small town called Inaba with his uncle and small cousin for 1 year just to kick back, relax, do student things, solve a mystery, and save the world and kill God with the power of friendship because the Birdman says you gotta. But soon after arriving, someone gets murdered and everyone is kinda cool about it, and coincidentally you get the powers to go inside of TVs. That's actually a weird ultra-dimensional world featuring Teddy, who's just kinda there. What the hecky is going on here? But you quickly discover that someone is trying to kill people by using the TV world as their personal kid murdering machine. But it's up to you to find the culprit and put an end to this mystery. And here's the best part. You're gonna have to sit through a 3-hour-long prologue to get what I just told you. Holy crap, how long is this? Oh, God. Regardless of all that, along the way, you'll meet emotionally distant relatives, creepy people, every day's great at your cringy, terrible poetry, desperate dude wives, sexual innuendos, awkward flirting, an endless array of bear puns, how old is Rise again, repeating battle themes, yellow, and reaching out to the not lies. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Now, it should go without saying that the game story is kinda funky if having an actual character named Funky Student didn't already make that clear. Personal fave, just saying. And even though the game's story revolves around murder and can give you major feels, it never loses that fun, upbeat, incredibly vibrant charm.
Awesome!
People are dying, guys! But it's the characters that carry that Rainbows Puppy and Sunshine vibe. As you progress, you'll be meeting and gaining new peeps in the Best Friends Forever group, and you'll quickly find your favorites. You got your angsty comedic relief, you spunky athletic nerd whose voice actor needs to chill out, an ex-Hot Topic crybaby employee, the sexually confused big boy, and Yukiko. But that's just a handful of the neat casts you'll meet, and minus the overall plot, the game gives you a choice to expand the story to a crazy long degree. And lordy, there is a lot of dialogue.
Defeat in battle.
Local family-run liquor move, and the scion of the invading shades.
Now, the story is a huge focus in this, but the game keeps things interesting, emotional, and even though logic is completely thrown out the window sometimes, the plot is pretty easy to follow. Right, Kanji? Jeez. Look at that cutie. Okay, so design-wise, the game is long as hecky and linear as hecky, but it's up to you how you spend the time you're given. The game is half and half, where it's teen student life simulator by day and dungeon-crawling, darkness-fighting anime kid by night. But the game revolves around time management, since every time you do some big action, like hang out with friends or study or kill darkness itself, part of the day will pass and then you go on to the next day and then you do it all over again, and yeah, it's almost like everyday life. Now, once you get through the incredibly long prologue, you'll have freedom to how you want to use your time. Now, here's how it's gonna go down, kids. Someone's gonna get thrown into the TV world, you got a limited amount of days to save them before they get killed, and in the meantime, you just chill out, get a job, flirt with hunky beefcakes over here. Now, while the game gives you a decent chunk of time to save someone, I do recommend taking a few days just to kill enemies and level up before saving someone, because there isn't much of an incentive to go into the TV unless someone is trapped in there. The game is also full of special events that tend to break up the monotony of saving your two-faced fake friends. These events are usually a few days long where you get to see the characters pal around and do goofy things, so sit back, relax, and make sure advanced dialogue automatically is turned on because I just burned a hole through my controller pressing next. Okay, so gameplay-wise, all of the fighting takes place in the TV world where you'll be running around dungeons that are gradually introduced as new characters get thrown in. Now, the dungeons themselves are, well, like dungeons. They are randomized for the most part, with chests, levels that vary in size and looks, and yeah, dungeons. The goal is to just reach the top and beat the creepy LSD-induced bosses. Ta-da, you did it. Now, occasionally you might need an item in the dungeon to continue climbing levels, but details. You're smart, you can figure it out. Now, there are shadows just chilling in the dungeons, but just hit them first and know the bigger they are, the tougher they are. And real talk, there is no shame in running away from a big shadow.
What you say? Oh, that you only meant well.
Now, climbing and starting fights aside, the game is strictly turn-based, and the game explains the basics, kinda. But here's what you need to know. Find the enemy's elemental weakness and kick the living garbage out of them. Most enemies have some kind of weakness to something, so figure it out, use it on the enemy, knock them down, and do an all-out attack.
Should we... All right! Ready or not, here we come!
This is the key way to win, and depending on who you put in your party, you can do special attack moves together, and they happen randomly. And speaking of party, as you go through the game, you'll get new people, and while there is no shame in picking your favorite waifus, it is important to have members that use different elements and that do not have the same weaknesses. And no pressure, guys, but party members only level up if they are with you, so pick your faves and stick to them. Also, Naoto is kind of OP, just saying they fixed them from the original Persona 4 and overcompensated. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Naoto's really good. Now, there are a few extra factors that will make or break your fighting time. First of all, Persona 4, when you boil it down, is a numbers game, and if you're underleveled, you're gonna get smeared across the wall and there's really nothing you can do about it. So always just grind, and get as high level as you can before fighting a boss. Of course, sadly, you can't fight endlessly. SP is your spirit points, aka Persona points, which we will get to soon, but once you run out of SP, SP management is important because it basically powers all your attacks that matter, but eventually you'll run out, but going home will max it out for the next day. Now, after most fights, you'll engage in a card minigame, aka Shuffle Time. Now, it's a little jarring at first, but Shuffle Time is how you gain personas and little bonuses. Personas are your main source of attacks that come in all shapes and sizes, and yeah, let's just leave it at sizes. But the best way to go about it is to always try to sweep the deck and pick draw another card, because then it'll cause a chain reaction. You'll sweep the cards over and over again until you manage to get 5 million yen and become the ruler of the universe. So outside of the TV world, you gotta deal with your social links, who are peeps you can hang out with either from work, school clubs, or people you meet randomly, and for some reason love bearing their petty problems. I'm looking at you, Chubby Cheeks McGee, and your pasty white dude advice helps better themselves in some way, and oh my god, Senpai noticed me! You can also romance people if you get close enough to them and listen. I don't want to start World War III in the comments, but Rise is best girl. Now, there are a lot of social links in this game, and chances are, if this is your first time, you're not gonna make friends with everyone, and that's okay. And social links don't always level up the second you hang out with them. Occasionally, it takes a few times. That's a bunch of bullcrap, and you know it! Of course, you won't start off being hip and cool with the youth. You're gonna start the game off lazy, dumb, cowardly, and emotionally dead. You have a series of personality stats that you can increase by doing certain tasks, and some social links can only be accessed if you have high enough stats. Now, these tasks can range from reading a book, insulting people, studying, stuffing your face, and yeah. Knowledge is probably the easiest to rank up though, since you're asked questions in school. And I do recommend a guide for this because 1, reading is a terrible invention that needs to be destroyed, and 2, you're not gonna know the answers. Trust me, I know you think you're a big smarty pants, but you're definitely not gonna know them. Now, leveling up stats does take time out of the day, so be sure to balance increasing stats with hanging out with people, because making friends is the key to leveling up personas faster, and better personas is the key to smacking the daylight out of enemies. And you see where I'm going with this here, kids? Manipulate your friends to make yourself more powerful. Now, personas are a tricky mistress, but fusing personas is ultra important. In the Velvet Room with Funky Grandpa, you'll be able to combine personas you get in the card game mentioned earlier. While you can match willy-nilly, keep in mind looks and level aren't everything, kiddos. Before you hit the make the thingy button, make sure to check the persona's weaknesses and abilities. Some abilities can be transferred to other personas, and real talk, persona abilities will make or break you, so read them carefully before going for it. You can also register past personas you've gotten so you can access them easier later on and look up what personas make better personas. Oh god! Alright, so Golden may be a linear game, but boy is this thing huge. You'll be able to explore to your heart's content, and about halfway into the game you'll get your little scoots.
Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
You can ride your scooters around town, but it's mainly used to get access to new areas so you can dink around further. And there are little side quests that you can choose to do for items, but they can be tedious and kind of odd and take a few days and... Well, hey there, little fella, what's going on? On top of that, Nanako is gonna harass you about some garden, and while it's not necessary, I do recommend getting down and dirty because some of the veggies are great SP items. Now, extra bullcrap aside, the game is rather expansive, and while most social links are just for the personas and getting the feels, some aren't and are keys to extra endings and areas. I'm not gonna go into spoilers, but just know maxing out Marie is important, and so is Cabbage Man Adachi. Hanging out with Marie is like eating glass and listening to reject MCR songs, and Adachi is a little too enthusiastic about making you dinner, but it's worth it, I guess. Now, this is something I think you should know, and this is by far the worst part of the game. Occasionally, when a new person is thrown into the TV world, you need info on that person to unlock their dungeon, and then you're forced to ask people around town information you already know. Sniff them out, you dumb bear! What are you good for? I honestly can't think of anything that's helpful for this, so just look it up. Like, really, save yourself the trouble, make it easy. It's not satisfying if you do it without a guide. It's just talking to idiot NPCs anyway. Just treat yourself. Also, real talk, look up a dialogue guide in December just saying if you don't do this, this is gonna mess things up real bad and you're gonna have a terrible time and I will personally knock down your door and shove my foot right up your ass. Okay, so here are a bunch of tips and things you should know before you get started. Take direct control of your party when you're in tough areas and against bosses because Lord knows you can't trust these ding-dongs. Guarding will save your life, especially when bosses do their charge up, get ready to suffer attacks. You can go back to dungeons you have beaten for some extra goodies. 10 out of 10 would recommend. If you see one of your party members at the gas station, hang out with them so you can get some new abilities. The game is kind of forgiving if you play on normal. If you die, you just start at the last floor you were at. With that being said though, save often and make sure to have save increments because you never know. Don't forget to buy new armor and equipment and sell all the adjuncts to the mustache man. Also, stock up on revival items and go homes to escape from dungeons. Don't go against bosses unless you have full SP. Be careful with personas weak to light and darkness because it's an insta-kill. You can be Mr. Steal Your Girl and date multiple people. Please don't. I am under contractual obligation to say Black Frost is a good persona and that you should try to make him. This message has been brought to you by all the people that wouldn't shut up about him in my Twitch chat. The fox can give you SP if you give him the money. Love the fox, pet the fox, be the fox. Golden hands are great for getting a lot of experience points. That is, if you can kill them before they run away. If you start hearing a weird rattling sound and get warnings to not open chest, please don't. And if you do, set your system on fire and throw it out the window. Try to hang out with people in your immediate battle party for max friendship butt-kicking power. This game never ends, and they should have called it This Isn't Even My Final Form the Game, because oh my god. Look up a guide to get the true mega put a cherry on top of it ending. That will probably take you like 20 hours to beat, good luck. Also, New Game Plus is a thing, and all of your personality stats carry over to that. Enjoy selling your soul to this game. I used to be a beautiful person, you know. So while Persona 4 Golden is just a beefed up version of the original Persona 4 and can be a tad self-indulgent, the game was one of the best exclusives and one of the main sellers of the PS Vita. And because of Persona 4's massive success, it really solidified itself as its own franchise instead of being a part of the Shin Megami Tensei series, which was kind of a good thing since Shin Megami Tensei fans poo-poo piss over Persona anyway. And even though Persona 4 has arguably stayed a little too alive for its own comfort, the game has created an extremely passionate community that cherishes all the hours of fun this series has brought and is currently awaiting their Lord and Savior Persona 5. That is, if we ever see it. And I hope this Basics Beginner's Guide makes your gaming experience a little better. So please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Hey, how's it going? Did you like this video? Well, if you did, why don't you go watch another one, you nerd? Also, why don't you go follow me on Twitter so you can keep up to date on what's gonna happen next? Wanna watch me get the footage footage I need for these videos? Head on over to my Twitch so you can see me play games and talk to chat where no one is safe. If you want to support me directly and be a major part of making these videos, go pledge to my Patreon and waste your money on YouTube trash. And a huge thank you to all my Twitch and Twitter followers who showed up to my Persona 4 Golden Marathon and who sent in tips for this episode. And this episode's Patreon shout out goes to Dodger of Zion. Thank you so much for your support, and don't forget to treat yourself. If you have any tips for this game or any future games, please leave me a comment, tweet me, or send me a message. Later, you big nerds!